Welcome to week 6 of our All-In, Don't Just Go to Church, Be the Church devotional series. Last week we talked about giving and what it means to give eternally, give generously. This week we're finishing out our 4G series talking about go. We're using a passage that is known as the Great Commission. It's found in Matthew chapter 28, verse 16 to 20. Now, all 4 Gospels talk about a Great Commission with Jesus. After he died, he rose, he came back to over 500 people. Those accounts are in every Gospel. But we study this Matthew chapter 28 principle of the Great Commission. It talks about going, baptizing, and teaching. But in this context, Jesus had died. He had appeared to over 500 people, and he told the 11, now it's 11 and not 12, and this is actually the first time in Matthew that the 11 is used because Judas, we know, betrayed Jesus and then killed himself. So now we have the 11, was told by Jesus to go to this mountainside. And so they go to this mountainside, and when Jesus was there and appeared to them on this mountain, some worshiped, some doubted, and the Greek word for doubt here is more so of a hesitation or a pause, which doesn't make sense because if you read all the other Gospels, you see that the 11 had been appeared to before. We know doubting Thomas, had to put his hand in Jesus' side and wrists and see that. So we know the 11 would have seen Jesus before, so why would some of the 11 hesitate or doubt while the others worshipped? But a lot of people believe, a lot of scholars would say that there were more people here than the 11. The 11 were mentioned, but we know Matthias would be the 12th one in Acts when they decided who is going to be this 12th apostle, this 12th disciple, and that person needed to have the credentials of where they walked with Jesus. So while Matthias wasn't even mentioned up until the point of choosing the 12th disciple, he was with Jesus the whole way. So a lot of scholars believe on this mountainside, giving the Great Commission, that there are more than just the 11 there, that there were some where this was the first time that they had seen Jesus. And that's pretty common, right? You just saw a man die, and you knew that there was an empty tomb, but to see your rabbi, your teacher, to see somebody that you know died, you would probably hesitate a little bit. But we know that the disciples followed through because 2,000 years later, we know the message of Jesus. But have you ever hesitated? Have you ever doubted? Have you ever heard the name Edwin Aldrin? Well, Mr. Aldrin was on the Apollo mission in the 60s when they sent a crew up to the moon, and he was the main pilot, the pilot. And so when Apollo landed on the moon, from Houston, they announced the pilot can go. And so the pilot is typically the first one off the aircraft. But Edwin hesitated. But Houston didn't know of his hesitation, so they said, okay, next, co-pilot can get off. That co-pilot's name is Neil Armstrong. And so Neil Armstrong is known as the first man ever on the moon, but it should have been Edwin C. Aldrin. But because Edwin hesitated, he wasn't able to be known like Neil Armstrong is. Edwin C. Aldrin had a choice. He had the ability to be the first man on the moon, but he hesitated. He wasn't available to be that. He wasn't available to go out of fear, out of hesitation. We are confronted with the same choice. Jesus commanded his disciples to go. Jesus commands us to go. He expects us to go. It's an expectation. We should evangelize. If we know Jesus, if we've had a personal experience with Jesus, we need to be making sure that we are going and getting people to an experience with Jesus as well. That was an expectation. But then it's more than just numbers. It's more than just evangelism. Evangelism always needs to include discipleship, because going is a command, it's an expected one, but discipleship is also a command. We need to be making sure people are being baptized. We're making sure in our workplaces and our schools that people know who we belong to. And that's what baptism is. But we need to make disciples. You are a disciple of Jesus. And Jesus is saying to you, just like he said 2,000 years later, go, make disciples of all nations everywhere. Go get messy, because people need to know who I am. Your personal experience with Jesus should lead you to discipleship. Not only you being a disciple, but you bringing people into that discipleship process. God wants your availability, not just your ability. In fact, he would love your availability over your ability. Because if you're available, he will give you the ability to go make disciples of everybody in your world. It's a decision we have to make. What's yours? God bless.